Another setback for former Penn State football coach Joe Paterno tonight. Paterno's son today said the legendary coach has a treatable form of lung cancer. Scott Paterno said his father's undergoing treatment and doctors are optimistic. The news comes as the National Collegiate Athletic Association today launched an investigation into Penn State's athletic programs after charges of sexual abuse by former assistant coach Jerry Sandusky. Meanwhile, Sandusky's lawyer speaking out tonight saying his client does not regret taking part in a television interview earlier this week. In that interview, Sandusky admitted to showering with boys, but speaking with Fox News' David Lee Miller today, Sandusky's attorney claimed his client's TV appearance would help his case.
I think people needed to hear from Jerry that he was innocent, that he didn't commit the acts with which he's been charged. The more that he gets out in the public eye, the more he speaks, I think the more people will understand that that's just Jerry's mannerisms, the way he answers questions, his thoughtfulness, his thinking process takes some time, his responses are slow.
Sandusky's attorney went on to say he also believes assistant football coach Mike McQuarrie's credibility will be a problem for the prosecution since police now say they have no record of McQuarrie's contention that he reported Sandusky's alleged rape of a 10-year-old boy. All right, a new scandal possibly brewing at Syracuse University tonight. Police are now investigating allegations that associate head basketball coach Bernie Fine molested two former ball boys, starting in the late 1970s and continuing into the 1990s. Now, Fine denies the accusations, but Syracuse has since placed him on administrative leave. The school's legendary head coach, Jim Boeheim, who's worked with Bernie Fine for 50 years, is also defending his friend, saying he believes the accusers are motivated by money. Joining me now, three unique American voices. Radio talk show host Curtis Lewa, Carol Swain, professor at Vanderbilt University, author of the book Be the People, A Call to Reclaim America's Faith and Promise, and country music singer Ray Stevens. Thank you all for joining us. Carol, I'll begin with you. What are your thoughts now upon hearing Sandusky address these questions?
I think it's unfortunate that he's decided to deny the allegations in the face of all the evidence that seems to point to his guilt, because it creates a situation that will keep the wounds open for the young people that were exploited in this situation, that were already troubled kids, and then they were put in a situation where all the adults failed them.
Now, he's certainly been indicted on these charges, but innocent until proven guilty. But do you think he should have spoken out at this point, Curtis?
Well, I'm happy he did, because he impaled himself. I mean, he didn't lawyer up where he took the Code of Omerta, the Fifth Amendment. So we got a chance to see this sleazoid in action. Actually, he laughed 2 times when Bob Costas was asking questions. So I say it's universal. You misuse it, you lose it. Keep your rocket in your pocket. Castration is your cure, pal, because that's the only thing to prevent you from doing it ever again to anybody.
Oh, Ray, can you be more colorful than that answer by Curtis? I mean, when Bob Costas asked him, are you sexually attracted to young boys? And he repeated the question twice, and he didn't just come straight out and say, absolutely not. I mean, I just think that buried his credibility. What are your thoughts, Ray?
Well, you know, I caught a portion of the interview with Bob Costas, and I don't think he helped himself at all. And if I were his lawyer, I would put him away somewhere and not let him do any more interviews. I mean, he's not a very good respondent to questions in an interview like this.
So now the floodgates, Carol, seem to be open with these allegations out of Syracuse University. I mean, do you think that we're now just starting to see the beginning of what could be a very, very sad and scary situation with what's gone on in sporting environments?
Yes, and there were also allegations about the Citadel in South Carolina, and so it may open up the floodgates at other universities where people have not been forthcoming about disclosing information that should have gone to the police. And I think also it shows the breakdown in morality in the country, and the fact that there's so many people that have seared consciences that they don't seem to know right from wrong.
Do you know what I think is most horrifying, Curtis, is this assistant coach who says he stopped the attack in the shower all those years ago, but not physically. I mean, how else do you stop an attack like that except for physically removing the kid and getting him to safety and perhaps to a hospital?
And football players are not known for their Oprah Winfrey crisis management skills. They're known for their muscles between both ears.
Right.
You would have thought he would have slammed this guy in the shower.
But here's another McCurry who's coming out talking. Everybody's telling their story, but it's just incriminating them further.
I must tell you, I know Joe Paterno went to his high school where there was Jesus Christ, there was St. Ignatius Loyola, who started the Jesuit order, and St. Joe Paterno. I went to a Jesuit high school. And he was of the highest moral character imaginable. He truly was. And this has not only hurt people like myself and others, because we looked to Joe Paterno to set the moral compass, and unfortunately he failed us.
All right, we've got about a minute or so. Let's switch gears and talk about the other thing everybody's talking about. That's Occupy Wall Street. Lou did a fantastic interview last night. Let's go ahead and play it, and I'll have you all react to it.
You're occupying Wall Street. Many of those who think the country is moving in the wrong direction are suggesting that you should occupy Washington, D.C.
Well, that's where we differ, because what we believe is that Washington, D.C. really is just the pawns. Really, they are just the pawns of the corporations. The corporations. We have a government that is bought and paid for by corporations, by Wall Street. We have a system that is rigged in favor of the top 1% of corporations at the expense of all the rest of us, and that's what. That's where we differ, and that's why we are occupying Wall Street.
All right, now, Ray, I don't know if you could actually see that guest, but the Occupy Wall Street protester was wearing a Burberry scarf and a polo jacket, and there's been a lot of discussion here. Maybe we're starting to see the beginning of the end of the Occupy Wall Street movement, especially when you have guests like that kind of doing their own justice, discrediting themselves.
Well, if it is the beginning of the end, it's taken long enough, and I'm with Lou. If they're going to protest, they ought to go to Washington and protest on the White House lawn, for goodness sakes. I mean, you know, as long as politicians have their hands out, lobbyists are going to show up and get into the political system, and you're going to have Washington in charge of doing something about Wall Street. That's totally absurd. I mean, Wall Street does not manipulate Washington. Washington allows themselves to be manipulated in a lot of instances by the money and the lobbyists.
You know, approval ratings for the president, for Congress itself, low, 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 and nobody's going to disagree that we're in a dysfunctional phase right now, Carol, for Washington.
I agree, and I think these Occupy Wall Street protesters, that many of them are a bunch of young Marxists, and they're trying to implement an agenda that they really don't know a whole lot about, and they're making it very difficult for ordinary people to make a living, the people they claim to care about.
Oh, the businesses, especially Zuccotti Park here in New York, Curtis. I mean, you can speak to this. I mean, they're losing money hand over foot.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the protesters have been shooting themselves in the foot. They're hurting the cause that they're trying to promote.
Look, these huckleberries, these freakazoids, they're reliving the magical mystery tour of my youth, the 60s and 70s, but the real crooks are on Wall Street. John Corzine, $700 million, 3 weeks. They should have took his passport. They can't find the dollar. How is it? Not a mention about John Corzine. Oh, why? #1 fundraiser for Barack Obama, the favorite of Democrat, liberal, and progressive. So the 1% is only the 1% you don't like, not the 1% like John Corzine who belong in jail.
And we'll leave it there. Curtis, Carol, Ray Stevens, thank you all so much, our American voices.
Thank you.
Okay, still ahead. The Super Committee meeting again today as a Wednesday deadline to cut spending closes in. But does it really even matter? Some in Congress say, nah. The A-team shares their thoughts. And former Governor Jesse Ventura is so disgusted with some of our country's policies, he'll turn his back on the national anthem. We'll ask him about his protest plan when